The snow had turned black by morning. It lay in ruined drifts across the courtyard of Winterfell, not clean and pale as it had been when the dead first came from the darkness, but trampled, blood-soaked, melted in patches by dragonfire and frozen again around broken shields, shattered spears and hands that would never close around sword hilts again. The castle breathed like a wounded beast. Its walls still stood, though great scars had been torn through stone older than most kingdoms. Its towers leaned beneath sheets of ice and smoke. Its gates, reforged and barred before the battle, hung in splintered ruin where giants, wights, and desperate men had fought, until no one could remember which cries had belonged to the living and which to the dead. Jon Snow stood in the courtyard while the dawn crawled slowly over the fields beyond the walls. He had not slept. No one who had lived through the night seemed able to surrender to sleep, not yet. Men sat with their backs against stone and stared into nothing. Women moved through the bodies with blankets, binding the dead by house or by army, by wolf, by dragon, by lion, by no banner at all. The unsullied gathered their fallen in neat rows despite their hollow eyes, discipline surviving where joy could not. The Dothraki, those who remained, sang low and harsh for warriors who had ridden laughing into the dark and vanished beneath it. The free folk did not sing. They dragged their dead together, named them when they could, and when they could not, they placed weapons in their hands. Ghost limped beside Jon with one ear torn and his white fur streaked gray. The direwolf pressed his shoulder against Jon's leg, not begging for comfort, only offering the silent weight of presence. Jon set a hand briefly upon his head. His fingers found blood, some of it ghosts, much of it not. Beyond the gate, the dead were being piled. Not the dead who had marched under the Night King. Those had collapsed into brittle ruin when Arya Stark had driven Valyrian steel into the heart of winter itself. No, these were the living dead now, the true dead. The men and women who had believed they might see another sunrise, and had paid for it with everything they had. Northmen dot, Vale Knights, Wildlings Dyak, Unsullied, Dothraki dot, Mormonts, Karstarks, Umbers, men from the Riverlands who had come north for honor rather than hope, boys who had never seen King's Landing, old warriors who had survived Robert's Rebellion and the War of the Five Kings only to fall beneath the walls of a home most of them had never called their own. Jon knew too many of their faces. That was the cruelty of command. A king could tell himself armies were numbers, banners, strength counted against strength, but Jon had never been able to think that way. He saw Pip and Gren at the wall. He saw AD laughing beneath black wool before the dead took him in the yard. He saw Lyanna Mormont, small and fierce and crushed in a giant's hand, refusing to die without taking a monster with her. He saw Jorah Mormont lying in the snow before his queen, his sword fallen from fingers that had followed Daenerys Targaryen across half the known world. He saw Theon Greyjoy in the Godswood, a ruined man made whole for one final moment, dying for the boy he had once betrayed. And he saw Arya. She stood near the gate to the Godswood now, still and narrow as a blade left upright in snow. No one knew what to say to her. Men twice her age stepped aside when she passed. Women whispered prayers after touching her sleeve. Davos had looked at her as if trying to reconcile the girl he had once watched at Dragonstone with the assassin who had ended the long night. Sansa had embraced her. Bran had only watched, his pale eyes calm and distant, as if the ending of death's great march had been one turn in a wheel he had seen long before any of them understood there was a wheel at all. Jon wanted to go to Arya, to hold her as he had held her when she was a little girl running through Winterfell with her hair tangled and her knees muddied. But the courtyard was too full of eyes, and the years between them were full of knives. Arya had come home changed by roads Jon could barely imagine. Perhaps they all had. Perhaps home was only a word people used for the place where their ghosts knew their names. Daenerys Targaryen stood near the remnants of the inner wall, wrapped in a dark coat lined with white fur. Drogon loomed behind her, black wings half folded, his head turning with slow suspicion whenever men came too near. The queen's silver hair had been braided before the battle. Each played a memory of victory. But now the braids were tangled, ash-stained, wind-torn. She looked younger in the gray light and older than any of them at once. She had lost much in the night. Jorah most of all. Jon had seen her kneeling over him when the fighting ended, her forehead pressed against his still chest, her hand clenched around his armor as if command, blood, and dragonfire might bring him back if grief were fierce enough. But grief did not obey queens. It did not obey kings either. Jon knew that well. He crossed the courtyard toward her because he must, though every step felt heavier than the last. Men bowed their heads as he passed. Some called him, "My lord." Others called him "Your Grace" before remembering that he had bent the knee. A few simply looked at him with naked gratitude, and those were the hardest to bear. Daenerys heard the change in the courtyard before Jon reached her. That was what frightened him most. Not that men loved him. He had never trusted love when it came from crowds. At the Wall, love had turned to knives quickly enough. In the north, love had become a crown he did not ask for, and then a crown he surrendered. But Daenerys heard every murmur, every northern voice that softened when speaking his name, every Vale Knight who looked to him before looking to her, every wildling who would follow him into darkness again without asking why. Every glance from Sansa Stark, sharp as winter and twice as patient. The queen turned toward him. "You should rest," she said. "So should you. I've rested enough." He knew that was not true. Her eyes were rimmed red, though no tears remained. There were scratches along one cheek and dried blood near her collar. For a moment he saw not the mother of dragons, not the breaker of chains, not the queen who had crossed the narrow sea with armies and fire, but a woman standing alone among strangers after the death of the one man who had loved her before she became a conqueror. "I'm sorry about Ser Jorah," Jon said. Daenerys looked away. The muscles in her jaw tightened, and for a heartbeat he thought she might dismiss him. Instead, she nodded once. "He died protecting me. A good death," Jon said quietly, though the words tasted bitter. Men like to say that. A good death. A clean death. A brave death. As if death changed its face because courage stood before it. Daenerys looked back at him, and something hard moved behind her grief. There are too many good deaths in this country. Jon had no answer. Across the courtyard, Sansa descended the broken steps from the great hall. She wore black and gray, her red hair pinned beneath a dark clasp, her face pale from sleeplessness, but composed with a discipline Jon had once mistaken for coldness. Now he knew better. Sansa did not freeze because she felt nothing. She froze because feeling everything and showing it would give others a weapon. Arya moved to meet her. Bran waited beneath a covered arch in his chair, with Podrick Payne standing behind him, and Brienne of Tarth close by, one hand on the pommel of her sword. Tyrion Lannister emerged from the hall shortly after, his face drawn and shadowed, followed by Varys, whose robes somehow remained neat even after the end of the world. They all came toward Jon and Daenerys. That, too, Daenerys noticed. A queen should have been the center of gravity. But Winterfell's stones were old, and they remembered Starks. Its people remembered Jon. Its dead had died beneath his command. Daenerys had brought dragons and armies, and without her, they would all have perished. Jon knew that. Sansa knew it. Every living soul in the castle knew it. But gratitude was not the same as love, and the North was careful with both. "We need to speak," Sansa said. Daenerys lifted her chin. "Then speak. In private." The queen's eyes cooled. "Anything that concerns this alliance concerns me." "It does," Sansa replied. The silence that followed was thin and dangerous. Jon stepped between them before the air could sharpen further. "We'll speak in the hall." Sansa's gaze flicked to him. She did not like being softened. Daenerys did not like being managed. Jon could feel both displeasure settle upon him like falling snow. The great hall smelled of smoke, blood, spilled ale, and wet wool. Men had slept on benches during the battle's final hours and risen to fight again when the dead breached the inner yard. One wall was blackened from a fire that had nearly taken the roof. The long tables had been shoved aside to make space for wounded men, then dragged back again when the maesters needed the warmth of the hearths elsewhere. The banners hanging above them were torn. Stark gray, Targaryen black and red, Arryn blue, the remnants of houses that had come north and might never march south. Jon stood near the hearth and watched them gather. Daenerys took the high seat without asking. It had been his father's seat once, Robb's after that. Then Sansa's. Then his. Now Daenerys sat there, beautiful and terrible and alone. While Drogon's shadow shifted beyond the broken windows, Jon felt Sansa's stillness beside him. She gave no outward sign of insult, but he knew her well enough to hear the silence for what it was. Tyrion stood near Daenerys, though not as near as he once might have. Varys stayed behind him, hands folded inside his sleeves. Davos took a place by the table, weary and grave. Arya leaned against a pillar. Bran waited near the fire, his pale face reflecting orange light. Samwell Tarly entered last, with Gilly behind him until he gently asked her to wait outside. Sam looked at Jon, then at Bran, then at the floor. It began, as so many disasters did, with a truth no one wanted spoken. "We won," Sansa said, "but we cannot march tomorrow." Daenerys stared fixed on her. "Cersei will not wait for us to recover. Cersei is not marching north. No. She is sitting on my throne while the realm believes she survived what we could not. The realm does not know what happened here yet. Then we will tell them." "With what army?" Sansa asked. "Half the north is dead. The Vale has lost hundreds. Your Dothraki rode into darkness and most did not return. The Unsullied fought until they could barely stand. The dragons are wounded. The men need food, sleep, bandages, horses, armor, time." Daenerys' hand closed slowly over the arm of the chair. "Every day we wait, Cersei grows stronger. Every day we rush, more of our people die because you cannot bear delay." "Sansa," Jon warned. "No," Daenerys said. Her voice was soft now, which made it worse. "Let her speak." Sansa turned fully toward the queen. "You asked the North to fight for the living. We did. You asked us to trust you. We tried. But if you mean to take these exhausted men south before the bodies of their brothers are burned, then you do not want allies. You want corpses that still know how to hold swords." Grey Worm, standing by the door, stiffened. Jon saw Missandei watching him from near the queen, her expression worried, loyal, and afraid of what loyalty might soon demand. Daenerys rose from the high seat. "I came north when I did not have to," she said. "I brought my armies. I brought my dragons. I risked everything I have spent my life building because Jon Snow begged me to believe in an enemy I had never seen. I believed him. I fought for your home. Ser Jorah Mormont died defending your walls. Thousands who crossed the sea for me died in your snow. And now, when the dead are defeated and the enemy who murdered my family sits on the Iron Throne, you tell me to wait? No." Sansa did not flinch. "I tell you to rule wisely." The words struck harder than a slap. Jon stepped forward. "Enough." But it was not enough. It would never be enough again. Daenerys turned to him. "And what do you say?" Every face in the hall shifted toward Jon. He hated it. He hated the expectation most of all. At the wall, command had come with black wool and bitter necessity. In the north, a crown had come because men needed a name to shout when fear pressed too close. He had bent the knee to Daenerys because he believed the living needed her more than they needed his pride. He had told himself that surrendering power would end this, that he would become only a soldier again, only a man with a sword and a duty. But power did not vanish when refused. It lingered in the eyes of others. Jon looked at Daenerys, then at Sansa, then at the burned rafters overhead. "I say we burn our dead first," he said. Daenerys' face changed almost imperceptibly. Sansa looked down. Tyrion exhaled through his nose. "And after?" Daenerys asked. Jon met her eyes. "After, we march south, together. But not tomorrow. Not until the wounded can move and the living have said farewell to the dead." Daenerys held his gaze for a long moment. Then she smiled, and the smile was not warmth but courtly discipline. "As you say," she said. "My lord." The title fell between them like a blade. The pyres were raised before sunset. Winterfell's dead were carried beyond the walls in a procession that seemed to stretch longer than the road to King's Landing. No one spoke loudly. Even the horses seemed to understand that the world had been spared and emptied in the same breath. Men dragged sledges through the snow bearing bodies wrapped in cloaks, blankets, banners, whatever could be found. The dead of noble houses were laid beside the dead of no house. Knights beside stable boys. Wildlings beside men who would once have spat at the word. The Unsullied built their rows with careful precision, each spear placed beside its owner. Each shield set where a heart had been. Jon helped carry Ed. He had not meant to. There were men for that. Brothers of the Night's Watch who had survived, though too few to make a proper line. But when Jon saw Dolorous Ed's body lifted from the yard, wrapped in black that had gone stiff with frost, he left the lords and queens behind and took one corner of the bier himself. No one stopped him. Ed's face had been cleaned. That was almost worse. He looked as if he might wake and complain about the cold, the smell, the lack of decent ale, the unfairness of dying after spending so many years expecting it. Jon wanted that so badly for a moment, that grief nearly doubled him over. Instead, he walked. Sam walked beside him, red-eyed and shaking. He had survived beneath a mound of dead in the yard, stabbing upward, sobbing, refusing to die because Gilly and little Sam were somewhere behind the crypt doors, and he had promised himself he would see them again. Jon had found him afterward alive and ashamed, as if surviving were a failure. "He would have hated all this," Sam whispered. "Hey," Jon said. "He'd say we were wasting good wood." Jon laughed once, and the sound broke apart before it became anything whole. When they laid Ed down, Sam lingered over him. He was Lord Commander. He was. He should have had more men here. He had us. Sam nodded as if that were comfort enough, though it was not. Jon moved down the line. Lyanna Mormont looked impossibly small beneath the bear cloak they had placed over her. Tormund Giantsbane stood near her pyre with red-rimmed eyes and a skin of sour wine hanging untouched from his hand. He had called her a little monster when he saw the giant dead beside her, and there had been no mockery in it, only awe. Theon lay beneath the gray kraken and the direwolf both. Sansa had ordered it. Yara Greyjoy was not there to see it, but Jon thought she would have understood. Theon had belonged to too many houses and not enough homes. In the end, he had died defending one he had betrayed, and perhaps that was as close to peace as the gods allowed some men. Jorah Mormont lay apart from the northern dead, though not by insult. Daenerys had asked for space around him. He wore armor cleaned of snow and blood, his hands folded over his sword. The queen stood beside his pyre for a long time without moving. Missandei remained near her. Grey Worm stood behind them, helmet beneath one arm, eyes lowered. Drogon crouched in the field beyond, restless and grieving in the only way dragons could, smoke curling from his jaws each time a man came too close. Jon watched Daenerys from across the snow. She looked carved from grief. Sansa approached him quietly. "You should speak." "I know." Not as her subject. Jon turned to her. Sansa did not soften the words. As theirs. He followed her gaze across the field. Thousands looked toward him. Northmen, Dotmi, Knights of the Vale, Wildlings, men who had once sworn to Stannis, men who had once sworn to Robb, men who had sworn to him. Even the Unsullied watched with their unreadable discipline, and though they belonged to Daenerys, they too had fought under the same sky and survived the same dead. "I bent the knee," Jon said. "I remember." She, the queen. Sansa's face did not change. Then speak as the man who brought them here. He wanted to argue, but the dead were waiting. Jon walked to the rise where the snow had been cleared. The wind moved through the pyres and carried the smell of pitch and pine resin. At first, he could not find the words. He had spoken before battles. He had spoken before hangings. He had spoken to wildlings, brothers, lords, and enemies. But the dead asked for something different. The dead did not need courage. They had spent all of theirs. So he gave the words to the living. "We are here because they are not," he said. His voice carried over the field. The men and women on these pyres stood between the world and darkness. Some were born in the north. Some crossed the narrow sea. Some came from the mountains of the Vale, from the islands, from the rivers, from beyond the wall. Some followed queens. Some followed kings. Some followed no one but the person beside them. He looked toward Edie, then Lyanna, then Theon, then Jorah. They were different in life. They had different gods, different tongues, different banners, different reasons for coming here. But when the dead came, none of that mattered. They fought for the living. They fought for children they would never meet, for homes they would never see again, for a dawn they might not live to see. And because of them, the dawn came. Nay. A murmur moved through the gathered survivors, soft as wind over graves. Jon drew a breath. We will remember them, not as numbers, not as losses in a war. As our brothers, our sisters, our friends, our shield. His throat tightened, but he forced the words out. The Night King is gone. The dead will not rise from this field. But if we forget what was bought here, then we will lose ourselves anyway. Let no lord, no queen, no king, no child born 1,000 years from now forget that the world was saved in the snow of Winterfell by those who stood when hope had failed. Ah! Silence followed. Then Daenerys stepped forward with a torch. Jon took one as well. They walked to the pyres together, though the space between them felt wider than the field. Daenerys lit Jorah's first. Jon lit Ed's. Sansa lit Theon's. Arya lit Beric Dondarrion's. Though the Red Priest was gone, and no one knew whether his god had taken him gently or used him up entirely. Sam lit the pyre of brothers from the watch. Tormund lit the pyres of free folk and cried openly as the flames climbed. Soon the field was burning. The smoke rose black and gold into the dying light, carrying with it hair, cloth, flesh, pine, prayer, and all the unsaid things that war leaves behind. Men wept. Women sang Destroy. The Dothraki keened in a language most of the North did not know, but grief required little translation. The Unsullied stood in ranks until the flames reached high enough to paint their faces orange, and then some of them, one by one, lowered their spears. Jon stayed until the heat drove him back. Daenerys remained. He approached her when the others had begun to drift toward the castle. For a while, neither spoke. Jorah's pyre burned fiercely, the flames catching in the polished metal of his armor until it looked as though he were being carried into the sky by dragonfire. He loved you, Jon said. Daenerys' eyes remained fixed on the flames. I know. That is rare? Yes. I'm sorry. You said that already. Hey. She turned to him then, and the grief in her face was no longer alone. Fear had joined it. Anger too, though not wild anger. Not yet. They listened to you. Jon looked back toward the castle. They listened because they were grieving. They listened because they love you. He said nothing. Daenerys stepped closer. You told me you did not want it. I don't. Then why does every man here look at you as though you are already wearing a crown? The words were too dangerous to answer quickly. I gave up my crown for you, Jon said. You gave up a northern crown, not this. I don't want this either. Daenerys searched his face with a desperation that might have been tenderness once. Then swear it again. Here. Yeah. Now. Swear that you will never press your claim. Swear that you will never allow others to use your name against me." "No." Jon's stomach tightened. He thought of Bran and the Godswood, saying words that had torn his life apart. He thought of Sam telling him the truth in the crypts, rage and grief tangled in every breath, because Daenerys had burned his father and brother alive. He thought of Lyanna Stark dying in a bed of blood, of Ned carrying a secret through honor, shame, war, marriage, fatherhood, and death. He thought of all the lies that had protected him and all the truths that might yet destroy others. "I won't betray you," Jon said. Daenerys' face hardened. "That is not what I asked. It is all I can swear." The fires snapped between them. For a moment, she looked as if he had struck her. Then the queen stepped back, wrapping herself again in the dignity of distance. "Then perhaps you want more than you know." She turned away before he could answer. Jon watched her walk through the smoke toward the castle, silver hair bright against the darkening field. Drogon lifted his head and rumbled as she passed, a sound deep enough to tremble through the soles of Jon's boots. Behind him, the pyres burned. Before him, the living began choosing sides without saying so. The feast came because men feared silence. By rights, there should have been no feast at all. Winterfell had little enough food before the dead came, and less after. The cellars had been opened for the wounded. The kitchens worked with what remained: hard bread, thin stew, salted meat, onions, turnips, ale watered more than most men cared to admit. Yet when night fell and the pyres still burned beyond the walls, the great hall filled with the living, and the living demanded proof that they had not become ghosts. At first, no one knew how to begin. They sat beneath torn banners with bandaged heads and splinted arms. The clatter of cups sounded too loud. The laughter, when it came, sounded almost shameful. Men looked toward empty spaces where friends should have sat. The hound drank as though ale were another enemy to be defeated. Gendry Baratheon stared into his cup while men around him still called him Rivers out of habit. Brienne of Tarth sat rigid, uncomfortable with praise and more uncomfortable with grief. Jaime Lannister watched her more than he watched the room, as if her continued survival were a miracle he did not know how to deserve. Tyrion drank cautiously. That alone told Jon how much the world had changed. Daenerys sat near the center table with Missandei at one side and Grey Worm at the other. Jon sat not far from her, close enough to honor the alliance, far enough that everyone noticed. Sansa occupied a place among the northern lords rather than beside the queen. Arya had vanished for part of the evening and returned only when Gendry sought her out with nervous purpose written across his face. Bran did not eat. He sat near the hearth like an old memory given flesh. For a time, the hall warmed. Tormund made it warm. The wildling rose unsteadily with a horn of ale in one hand and shouted until every eye turned. His beard was singed, his face bruised, and one sleeve of his coat had been cut away to bind a wound beneath it. He looked magnificent in the way only a man who had nearly died and expected to nearly die again could. "To the dead!" he roared. Cups rose. "To the dead," the hall answered. "To the living." The answer came louder. "To the little wolf girl who killed death." This time the hall erupted. Arya froze near a side table as men turned toward her, cheering, pounding cups against wood. She looked ready to stab someone until Sandor Clegane gave her a faint, ugly smile and lifted his drink. That, more than the cheers, seemed to settle her. Tormund was not finished. "And to Jon Snow," he bellowed, turning with theatrical grandeur that nearly spilled half his ale. "The man who climbed a bloody dragon, shouted at a dead one, got himself killed once already, came back too stubborn to stay in the ground, and dragged every fool in this hall into the fight that saved the world." The hall thundered. Jon's heart sank. It was not that he did not love them for it. That was the problem. He loved them too much. Every cheer was a hand pushing him toward a precipice. The free folk slammed their cups. Northmen shouted his name. Vale Knights raised their voices. Even some of Daenerys' soldiers looked toward him with reluctant respect. "Jon Snow!" someone cried. Then another. Then many. "Jon Snow!" Jon Snow! Jon Snow. Daenerys smiled. It was a queen's smile. Beautiful. Controlled. Empty. Jon lifted his cup because refusing would have made the moment worse. The roar grew. Tormund came to him, threw an arm around his shoulders, and nearly crushed him. "This one," Tormund shouted, shaking Jon as if he were a boy. "This one's little, but he's mad, a mad little crow. You Southerners ever meet a man who made enemies out of death and queens and still looks sad at supper?" Laughter rolled across the hall. Jon managed a grim smile. His eyes found Daenerys despite himself. She watched the room, not him. That was worse. She watched the cheering men as a commander watches a battlefield and counts what is lost. Then Gendry was called forward. Daenerys rose. The hall quieted by degrees, curiosity replacing drunken warmth. Gendry looked startled when the queen summoned him by name. He stood, uncertain whether he was about to be honored or judged. Arya's eyes narrowed. "You are Robert Baratheon's son," Daenerys said. Gendry swallowed. "Bastard son, your grace." "Not anymore." A murmur passed through the hall. Daenerys' voice carried clearly. "I name you Gendry Baratheon, lawful son of King Robert's line, Lord of Storm's End." Gendry stared at her. For an instant he was not a warrior, not the man who had swung a hammer against dead things in the dark, but a blacksmith boy from Flea Bottom trying to understand why the world had turned upside down and placed a castle beneath his feet. "Your Grace," he stammered, dropping to one knee. "I don't know what to say." "You could say thank you," Tyrion suggested gently. "Thank you, Your Grace." Daenerys smiled, and this smile had warmth in it because it had purpose. The hall applauded. Men cheered again, though not as loudly as before. Gendry rose a lord, bewildered, grateful, and bound. Jon understood the move at once. So did Sansa. Daenerys had not merely rewarded a brave man. She had created a Lord of the Stormlands by royal command in front of every witness who mattered. She had shown generosity, authority, and political instinct in one stroke. She had reminded the room that queens did not only burn, they raised men up. For a little while, it worked. The feast loosened again. Songs began. Bad ones first, then worse ones. Then old northern laments turned into drinking songs by men too drunk to respect sorrow. Tormund pursued Brienne with open admiration until Jaime's expression became so complicated that Tyrion nearly smiled. Davos spoke with Gilly and Little Sam, his face softening in a way Jon had rarely seen since Tyrion Baratheon's death. Grey Worm and Missandei sat close together, speaking quietly of a place far from snow and thrones. Jon drank less than men thought he did. He watched. Sansa saw too much. Daenerys noticed too much. Varys listened too much. Tyrion drank too little. Arya avoided being worshipped with the practiced skill of someone who had spent years avoiding death. Bran sat as if he were waiting for a moment already written. Sam came to Jon late in the night. His face was flushed from ale, but his eyes were sober. "We need to talk." Jon's shoulders tightened. "Not here." "No, not here." They left through a side passage half choked with old rushes and smoke. The cold beyond the hall struck Jon like water. Sam wrapped his cloak tightly around himself, shivering, and for several moments neither spoke. From inside came the muffled roar of men trying to drown memory. Sam looked at Jon with a grief that had changed shape since the crypts. "You told her?" Jon did not ask who. And? "She wants it kept secret." Sam's mouth tightened. "So do I," Jon said. "That is not your choice alone. It's my life. It is the realm's life." Jon almost laughed, but there was no humor in him. "Don't. I have to." "No, you don't. You want me to take a crown I never wanted." "No, I'm not in me, and told. I want the truth to matter. The truth will tear us apart." Sam stepped closer, and for once fear did not make him smaller. It made him sharper. "Your father died because truth mattered," he said. "My brother died because Daenerys Targaryen burned him after a battle. My father was cruel and I hated him, but Dickon was not. He was good. He was stupid maybe and proud, but he was good. She burned them both because they would not kneel. They fought against her. They were prisoners." Jon looked away. Sam's voice lowered. "You know what that means. I know you do. She saved us. Yes, and maybe she will save others. Or maybe she will burn anyone who refuses to call saving and ruling the same thing." The wind moved between them, carrying smoke from the pyres. Jon's hands curled slowly. "I bent the knee," he said. "You were king in the north. I gave it up. Did the north give it up?" The question struck harder than Jon expected. Sam continued, gentler now. "You think honor means keeping your word no matter what happens after. Sometimes it does. But sometimes honor means admitting the world changed around your promise. You promised her before you knew who you were. Me. I know who I am. Do you?" Jon turned back sharply. "I am Ned Stark's son." Sam's eyes filled with pain. "Yes, in every way that matters except the one that will decide who sits on the Iron Throne." Jon wanted to walk away. He wanted to return to the hall, drink until the world blurred, find Daenerys, and tell her again that he wanted none of it. Find Sansa and tell her to stop looking at him as if crowns were diseases only she knew how to diagnose. He wanted to go to the Godswood and sit beneath the heart tree until Bran explained why truth always arrived like a knife. Instead, he stood in the cold with Sam. "Who else knows?" Sam asked. "Daenerys? You? Bran Dorchin? Bran told me because you needed to know. And now I know. Sansa and Arya should know. No. They're your family. That's why they shouldn't." Sam's expression changed. "You think Sansa would use it?" Jon said nothing. "She might," Sam admitted, "but not because she hates you. Because she sees what you refuse to see." "My knee. And now I kneel and more." "And what's that?" "That men are already choosing." Jon looked toward the hall doors. From within, the chant rose again faintly, drunken and affectionate and doomed. "Jon Snow. Jon Snow. Jon Snow." Sam heard it too. Neither of them spoke until the chanting faded. When Jon returned to the hall, Daenerys was gone. Daenerys stood on the battlements where the wind came hardest. Winterfell slept uneasily beneath her. The feast still lived in pockets of noise below, but much of the castle had surrendered to exhaustion. Torches guttered along the walls. Men moved like shadows between watchposts, glancing toward the dark fields, as if some part of them did not trust that the dead were truly gone. Beyond the walls, the last of the funeral pyres glowed red beneath veils of smoke. Drogon slept in the field beyond the gate, curled like a mountain of black scale around his own heat. Rhaegal rested apart from him, wounded but alive, pale green wings folded awkwardly against the snow. The dragons had saved the living, and still the North looked at them as if salvation had teeth too large to trust. Daenerys drew her coat tighter around herself. She hated the cold. She hated that she hated it. A queen should not resent the weather of the realm she meant to rule. A conqueror should not feel small because old stones remembered other names better than hers. She had survived worse than snow. She had walked into fire and emerged reborn. She had crossed red wastes, watched her child die before he drew breath, buried husbands, friends, Khalasars, hopes. She had freed cities and broken masters. She had been worshipped by men and women whose chains she had shattered with blood and flame. Yet in Winterfell she felt like a guest at a table already full. The North thanked her. That was almost more insulting than hatred. Hatred was clean. Gratitude with suspicion beneath it was a slower poison. They thanked her for her armies, thanked her for her dragons, thanked her for risking everything against the dead. then turned their eyes back to Jon Snow as if he were the hearth and she the storm outside. The door behind her opened. Tyrion Lannister stepped onto the battlement with a cup in hand and a limp more pronounced than usual. He shut the door carefully against the wind. "Your Grace, if you have come to tell me I should sleep, you may join the long list of men who think queens command kingdoms, but not themselves. I have found sleep deeply overrated since childhood." She did not smile. Tyrion joined her at the wall. For a while they looked over the dark fields together. "They love him," Daenerys said. Tyrion did not pretend not to understand. "Yes, you might have lied. I considered it. That is why I keep you near. You consider all sins before choosing one. That may be the kindest thing anyone has said about me in years." Daenerys' gaze remained on the ashes beyond the walls. "Do you believe he wants it?" "No." "Do you believe that matters?" Tyrion took longer to answer. "No." The honesty struck her like cold iron. She turned her head slowly. He continued before she could speak. "I believe Jon would rather lose a hand than take your throne. I also believe men have been crowned for less than being reluctant, honorable, loved, male, and inconveniently born. My throne. Yes, you said that carefully. I say most things carefully when there are dragons nearby." Daenerys looked back toward the field where Drogon slept. "He told you." Tyrion stilled. There it was. Not proof, not yet, but enough. She had seen the carefulness in him since the feast began. She had seen how Varys looked at Jon, how Sansa watched Tyrion, how Samwell Tarly seemed unable to meet her eyes. Secrets had a scent. In Meereen they had smelled of perfume, blood, and old brick. In Westeros, they smelled of snow. "Your Grace, do not lie to me." Tyrion lowered his cup. The wind pulled at his pale hair. For once, his clever face looked tired beyond cleverness. "Jon told Sansa and Arya?" she asked. "I do not know." "Varys?" He hesitated. Was answer enough. Daenerys laughed softly, and the sound frightened even her. "Of course. Your Grace, this can still be contained." "Contained?" She turned on him. "My claim to the Seven Kingdoms is not a fire in a kitchen. No, I. But fires spread when men panic." "No. Men?" Her voice sharpened. "Or eunuchs with ravens?" Tyrion looked toward the sleeping castle. "Varys believes he serves the realm." "Varys serves Varys' idea of the realm. Men like him do not bleed for their ideals. They convince others to bleed, then call it wisdom." Tyrion did not defend him. Good, she thought. Or perhaps not good. Perhaps silence was merely another kind of betrayal. Daenerys gripped the stone parapet. Beneath her gloves, the cold bit into her fingers. "I loved him," she said. The words came out before she could turn them into something more queenly. Tyrion's expression softened. "I know. Not because of his claim, not because he was useful, not because he bent the knee. I loved him because he came to me with nothing but truth in a war no one believed in. Because he looked at me and saw neither a savior nor a monster. Because he made me believe I could be." She stopped. "Be what?" Tyrion asked. "Home," she said, and hated herself for it. Tyrion looked down. "I have had many homes taken from me," Daenerys said. "Dragonstone before I knew it. The house with the red door. Drogo's tent. Meereen, perhaps. Now this country looks at me as though I am taking something that was never mine, and the man I trusted most is the thing they would replace me with. He does not want to replace you. No, he only has to exist." The door opened again. This time, it was Jon. Tyrion turned, and Daenerys felt a flash of ugly satisfaction at the guilt on his face. Jon stopped just inside the battlement walk, looking from one to the other. "I was looking for you," he said. "For me?" Daenerys asked. "Or for your hand? Tyrion is your hand. For now." Tyrion winced faintly. I should go. No, Daenerys said. Stay. Jon's face tightened. This is between us. Nothing is between us anymore. That is the problem. The wind howled over the wall. Tyrion, to his credit or foolishness, remained. Daenerys stepped toward Jon. Who knows? Jon's silence hurt more than any answer. Your sisters? She asked. They are my family. So yes. I told them because they are my family. And Sansa will tell Tyrion, if she is not already. Tyrion will tell Varys if he is not already. Varys will tell every lord in Westeros with a raven and an ambition. And they will all tell themselves they do it for the good of the realm. No. Jon looked at Tyrion. Tyrion looked away. Daenerys felt the ground of her life shift beneath her. She had known, but knowing and seeing were different wounds. I asked you not to tell them, she said. I couldn't lie to them. You lied to yourself easily enough when you bent the knee. That was no lie. You did not know who you were. I knew enough. No, she said. You knew nothing. You knew Ned Stark raised you. You knew men loved you because you were his son. Now they will love you because you are Rhaegar's son too. The North, the Vale, the Riverlands, perhaps even Dorne, if the right promises are made. Tell me, Jon Snow, when they kneel, will you close your eyes and pretend you cannot hear it? I don't want it. Her anger broke open. It does not matter what you want. The words cracked across the battlements. Somewhere below, a guard looked up and quickly looked away. Daenerys lowered her voice, though it shook. I have spent my life wanting what was stolen from me. You spend yours refusing what men keep trying to give you. Do you know what that makes them think? That you are good. That you are pure. That power means nothing to you, and so you deserve it more than anyone who fought for it. What a beautiful trap. What a noble lie. No. Jon stepped closer, pain bare on his face. I am not your enemy. Then swear it. I have. Not enough. Never enough. Stand before them tomorrow and tell them I am your queen. Tell them your claim means nothing. Tell them any man who uses your name against mine betrays you. Jon looked as if each word struck flesh. Say it, she whispered. Tyrion watched him too. For one desperate heartbeat, Daenerys believed he would. He would choose her. He would choose the promise he had made on the ship when the world seemed simpler because death was marching south, and love had not yet learned to fear blood. He would kill this secret before it grew teeth. He would be the man she had trusted. Then Jon said, I can tell them I don't want the throne. Daenerys closed her eyes. Not enough. Never enough. When she opened them, she was queen again. Then we march south as soon as the armies can move, she said. Cersei is my enemy. The Iron Throne is mine. Anyone who says otherwise will answer for it after the war. Jon stared at her. Daenerys, your grace. The correction left her mouth cold and final. Jon's face changed. Not anger. Worse. Sorrow. He bowed his head. As you command, your grace. The words should have pleased her. They did not. Sansa Stark learned the shape of a secret by watching who stopped speaking when she entered a room. By morning, Winterfell had too many silences. Tyrion fell quiet near the map table when she came to discuss grain stores. Varys ended conversations with northern messengers the moment her footsteps sounded in the corridor. Jon looked as if he had spent the night wrestling a ghost and lost. Daenerys did not look at Sansa at all unless duty forced her to, and then her eyes were violet glass. Good, Sansa thought. Not because she wanted Daenerys wounded. There had been a time when Sansa would have mistaken cruelty for strength. Cersei had taught her that. Joffrey had taught her that. Ramsay had taught her worse. But Sansa no longer mistook another woman's pain for victory. Daenerys had fought for the living. She had lost men she loved. She had earned honor. She had also sat in Ned Stark's chair as if the North were already hers. Both truths could live in the same room. Sansa had learned that too. She found Arya in the yard near the broken archery targets, throwing dragonglass daggers into a wooden post blackened by fire. Each blade landed close enough to the last that the handles nearly touched. Arya wore no expression when Sansa approached. "You're angry," Sansa said. Arya threw another dagger. "You always start with the obvious now? It saves time." Arya glanced at her. "I'm not angry. That one went deeper than the others. I'm practicing." "For whom?" Arya pulled the daggers free one by one. "That depends." Sansa folded her hands into her sleeves. Around them, Winterfell limped toward order. Men cleared rubble. Women carried buckets of snow to melt for washing wounds. Gendry Baratheon worked shirtless near a forge with 3 other smiths, repairing blades, though a lordship waited somewhere far to the south with his name on it. He looked toward Arya once, then looked away too quickly. "Jon told us because he trusted us," Sansa said. Arya's hand paused on a dagger hilt. "He told us because Bran made it impossible not to," Arya replied. "And because Sam told him first. And because men cannot leave buried things buried." Sansa looked toward the Godswood entrance. "Should they?" Arya slid the last dagger free and turned. "You want to tell people, I want the North safe." "That isn't what I said. It is my answer." Arya studied her with those dark, unsettling eyes. She had returned from Death's Roads wearing their shadows, but Sansa could still see the girl beneath when the light struck properly. Not innocence. That had been killed too long ago. But family. Stubborn, wary, fierce. "She helped save us," Arya said. "Yes. You don't trust her." "No. I don't either." The admission sat between them like a drawn knife. Arya looked across the yard to where Daenerys' remaining soldiers moved in disciplined lines. "She looks at Jon differently now." "She should. That doesn't mean you should use him." Sansa's mouth tightened. "I am trying to protect him. You sound like everyone who ever lied to us." The words hurt because they were too close to fair. Sansa breathed slowly. When Father went south, he believed honor would protect him. When Robb marched, he believed victories would protect him. When Mother freed Jaime, she believed love would protect us. Every one of them did what they thought was right, and every one of them died because someone else understood power better. Arya said nothing. "I will not watch Jon make the same mistake because he thinks wanting nothing makes him safe. He doesn't want a crown. Crowns do not care." Arya's face hardened. "If you tell people, Daenerys will blame him. She already does. Then you make it worse. I make it visible." Arya stepped closer. "And if visible gets him killed?" Sansa felt the old fear move through her, cold and familiar. Jon deaded in the snow. Robb dead beneath a wolf's head. Ned on the steps of the Great Septi. Rickon running across a field, arrows falling behind him. There were too many ways to lose a brother. She knew more than most. "If we do nothing," Sansa said softly, "he may kneel beside her while she burns King's Landing to prove no one can refuse her." Arya's eyes flickered. "You think she will? I think she could." "That's not the same." "No, Dot. But queens who could burn cities should not be trusted merely because they have not done it yet." Arya looked away toward Gendry's forge, though Sansa knew she was not seeing it. "Jon would hate it," Arya said. "Yes. He might hate you." Sansa swallowed. "Yes. There. The truth beneath all strategy. She could survive Daenerys' hatred. She could survive Tyrion's disappointment, Varys' interest, northern whispers, southern suspicion. But Jon's eyes turning from her with the same wounded disbelief he had carried after she opposed him before the Battle of the Bastards, that would cut deeper than she wanted to admit. And still, "What is the point of family?" Sansa asked. "If we only protect each other in ways that keep us loved." Arya did not answer. The sound of wheels over stone came from the archway. Bran appeared with Podrick behind him. Sansa wondered how long he had been nearby. With Bran, the answer was always both no time and too long. "You are speaking of Jon," Bran said. Arya sighed. "We usually are." Bran's gaze moved between them. "He is not only Jon. He is to me," Arya said. "To all of us," Sansa added, though the words felt less certain in the air. Bran looked toward the heart tree beyond the gate. Rhaegar loved Lyanna. Lyanna made Eddard promise. The promise kept Jon alive. It also kept the realm blind. Sansa hated when he spoke like that. Not because it was useless, because it was too useful and never human enough. "What do you want us to do?" she asked. Bran turned his pale eyes to her. "I do not want." Arya rolled her eyes. "Helpful. The truth will travel," Bran said, "whether you carry it or not." Sansa felt a chill that had nothing to do with winter. "To whom?" she asked. Bran did not answer directly. "Ravens have wings. Men have fears. Queens have enemies. The past does not remain where it is buried when the living build thrones over it." Arya stepped toward him. "Will Jon die?" Bran looked at her. For the first time, Sansa saw something like sadness in him. Or perhaps she only wanted to. "Not today," Bran said. Arya's jaw tightened. "That isn't enough." "It is what I know." Sansa folded her arms, forcing herself to think past the fear. Bran's words were rarely instructions. They were doors. One still had to decide whether to open them. "Varys knows," she said. Arya looked sharply at her. Sansa did not explain how she knew. She did not need to. The spider had been too attentive since the feast, and Tyrion too careful. Jon's secret had already moved beyond family. The danger was no longer whether it would remain hidden. It was whether Daenerys would be the only one prepared when it emerged. "I need to speak with Tyrion," Sansa said. Arya's face closed. "You already did, and I will again." "Sansa, I know." "No, you don't." Arya's voice was low now. "I know killers. I know the look people get before they decide a life is worth less than a cause. Be careful you don't start wearing it." The words struck so cleanly that Sansa almost stepped back. Arya sheathed her dagger. Then she walked away. Bran watched her go. "She is afraid for him. So am I." "You are afraid for the North." "Yes. You are afraid those are becoming different fears." Sansa looked down at him. "Are they?" Bran's gaze drifted toward the yard, where Jon had appeared near the gate, speaking with Davos and several northern captains. Men straightened when he passed. Not as subjects exactly. Not yet. But close enough. "They do not have to be," Bran said. Sansa followed his gaze. Jon laughed at something Davos said, though the laugh was brief and tired. A young soldier approached him, perhaps no more than 16, with his arm bound in linen and his face full of nervous worship. Jon listened. He placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. The soldier stood taller afterward. Sansa felt the future rearranging itself with a quietness more frightening than battle. Her brother had come home a bastard, become a Lord Commander, died, risen, been crowned, surrendered, and now carried a name that could set the realm on fire. He wanted only to do right. It was the one thing that made him most dangerous to those who did wrong. Sansa turned to Bran. "If the truth will travel anyway," she said, "then better it travels from those who love him." Bran did not nod. He did not need to. Tyrion found Sansa in the library, because some part of him had known she would choose a room where dead men spoke more honestly than living ones. Winterfell's library had suffered less than the yard, but more than any maester would forgive. Shelves had been split for emergency firewood before the battle, despite Samwell Tarly's protests. Scrolls lay bundled in corners to save them from damp. Several books had been trampled when wounded men were carried through in the night. The room smelled of old leather, smoke, and melting snow. Sansa stood at a table beneath a narrow window, studying a map of the 7 kingdoms weighted at the corners by a dagger, a cracked inkwell, a piece of broken masonry, and a small wooden wolf. You summoned me, Tyrion said. I asked for you. A distinction worthy of a queen. She looked up. Careful. With you, always. He limped to the table and saw that the map was not marked for battle. Not exactly. Small tokens had been placed on regions. A black dragon near Dragonstone. A lion at King's Landing. A wolf at Winterfell. A falcon in the Vale. A trout in the Riverlands. A sun in Dorne. A kraken near the Iron Islands. And a stag over the Stormlands. The stag was new. Crudely carved. Likely by someone in the yard after Daenerys' declaration. You waste no time, he said. Time is what people with dragons always try to deny everyone else. Tyrion smiled faintly despite himself. That sounds like something I would say after too much wine. You have not had enough wine lately. No, Dottie. A troubling development. Sansa's gaze settled on him. She knows Varys knows. Tyrion's smile vanished. You are not surprised, she said. I try not to be surprised by clever people in castles. Did you tell him? He held her gaze for a moment, then looked at the map. No. But he knows. Yes. From you? From the shape of me avoiding telling him. Sansa's mouth curved without amusement. How very Lannister. How very Stark to wound and call it accuracy. She leaned over the table. What will he do? Varys? Yes. What Varys always does. Serve the realm by betraying whoever currently disappoints his idea of it. Will he support Jon? He already does. The words sat between them, irreversible now. Sansa looked toward the wolf token at Winterfell. Good. Tyrion studied her. He had known many players of the game. Cersei played with fear, wildfire, and blood. Littlefinger with desire and debt. Varys with secrets and patience. Daenerys with justice sharpened into conquest. Sansa Stark played reluctantly, which made men underestimate her, and carefully, which made them regret it later. You understand what you are doing? He asked. Better than you did when you believed Cersei would send her armies north. The blow landed because it was true. Tyrion breathed in slowly. I deserved that. Yes. And yet here I am, apparently invited to receive more. You were married to me once. A fact you used to survive, and I used to feel noble. I know you are not cruel. I have done cruel things. So have I. He looked up at her then. There was no softness in her face, but there was recognition. Perhaps that was better. Softness lied more often. Sansa tapped the map near King's Landing. Cersei will use the people as shields. Yes. She will expect Daenerys to burn through them. Tyrion said nothing. You fear she might, Sansa said. His fingers brushed the edge of the table. I fear many things. Say this one. The room felt colder. Tyrion looked toward the narrow window where snow slid from the ledge in wet clumps. Daenerys is not her father. No one is only their father. She chained her dragons when one child died in Meereen. She risked everything to fight the dead. She has freed more slaves than any ruler in living memory. Yes. And burned those who would not bend. Those were enemy soldiers. Prisoners. He flinched despite himself. Sansa saw it. Of course she did. My father was an enemy prisoner too, she said quietly. Joffrey still called it justice. That is not the same. No. Daenerys is braver than Joffrey. More intelligent, more wounded, more loved by those she freed, more certain she is right. Sansa leaned closer. That makes her more dangerous, not less. Tyrion wanted wine badly. Instead, he looked at the map. What do you want from me? Help Jon. He does not want help taking a throne. Then help him survive those who do. Tyrion laughed once, bitterly. And if helping him survive means betraying my queen? Sansa's eyes did not move. You have betrayed queens before. My sister made that easy. She made everything hard. That was her talent. For a moment they were almost old companions again, two prisoners in King's Landing speaking carefully because cruelty had ears. Then the present returned. Tyrion touched the black dragon token near Dragonstone. If this becomes open conflict, thousands die before Cersei ever opens her gates. Then prevent open conflict. How? Call a council before the Southern March. Daenerys will never agree. Jon might. Jon is not the queen. No, Sansa said. That is the problem and the solution. Tyrion looked at her sharply. She continued, do not crown him here. That would be war. Do not ask him to press his claim. He will refuse and hate the asking. But make the question bigger than him. Make it about what happens after Cersei. Make Daenerys answer before witnesses. Will the North remain free? Will the Iron Islands? Will Dorne accept her rule? Will the Reach be punished? Will every lord who fought for Cersei burn? Will the realm have law, or only victory? Nah. Tyrion stared at the map. Sansa had not placed the tokens for war. She had placed them for judgment. You want the lords to hear her speak like a conqueror, he said. I want them to hear both of them. That is dangerous. Yes. For Jon most of all. Yes. And if he chooses her, Sansa's face tightened in the smallest possible way. Then I will know how alone the North truly is. Tyrion found no answer to that. The library door opened before he could try. Varys entered without apology, which meant he had either been listening or wished them to wonder if he had. His hands were folded, his round face mild, his eyes far too awake. Lady Sansa, Lord Tyrion. Lord Varys, Sansa said. How long have you been outside? Long enough to admire the resilience of northern masonry. Not long enough to be accused of anything interesting. Tyrion rubbed his forehead. That is your least convincing lie in years. Then age has made me careless. Sansa looked between them. You support Jon. Varys did not blink. I support the realm. I asked a different question. And I answered the older one. Tyrion groaned softly. God spare me from patriots. Varys moved to the table. His gaze fell upon the map, the tokens, the careful arrangement of power waiting to be named. The realm has bled under fools, tyrants, children, fanatics, and men who believed birth excused madness, Varys said. It may yet bleed under a liberator who cannot understand why liberation by fire still burns. Careful, Tyrion said. I am tired of careful men surviving long enough to bury brave ones. Sansa studied him. And Jon Snow does not wish to rule. That recommends him. He inspires loyalty without demanding worship. That recommends him more. He has the blood of old Valyria and the upbringing of Winterfell. That may recommend him to those who care for stories. He has seen power from below, not only above. That recommends him to me. He died once, Tyrion said. Varys looked at him. Many rulers would be improved by the experience. Sansa almost smiled. Tyrion did not. You are speaking treason, he said. No, Varys replied. I am speaking possibility. Treason requires a decision. And have you made one? Varys looked toward the wolf token. I suspect the realm is making it for us. Before anyone could answer, footsteps sounded in the corridor. Jon entered. All three turned. His gaze went first to Sansa, then to Tyrion, then to Varys, then to the map between them. For a long moment, no one moved. Jon's face closed. What have you done? He asked. Sansa held his gaze, though Tyrion saw the pain it cost her. Nothing yet, she said. Jon looked at the tokens again. The wolf, the dragon, the lion, the stag, the sun, the kraken, the pieces of a realm already arranging themselves around him. His voice was low when he spoke. I told you because you are my family. Sansa's control nearly broke then. Nearly. And I am trying to keep you alive. I asked you not to tell. You asked me to pretend the truth would become harmless if we loved you enough to ignore it. Jon stepped closer. You had no right. I had every right. No! His anger sharpened. This is not one of your games with lords and letters. This is my life. Sansa's eyes flashed. And what do you think a crown is? Silence. Tyrion looked down, wishing himself smaller. Varys watched with the calm sorrow of a man witnessing a necessary wound. Jon looked as if Sansa had betrayed him beyond forgiveness. Then Sansa said the thing none of them expected. I would rather you hate me alive than love me from a grave. Jon flinched. The library seemed to hold its breath. Sansa's voice softened, but only slightly. You think this is ambition because that is what good men call power when they are afraid of it. I do not want you on the Iron Throne because it is glorious. I want the realm to see there is another choice before Daenerys and Cersei turn King's Landing into a funeral pyre. Jon turned away from her, jaw clenched. What do you want? He asked Tyrion. The dwarf sighed. At this precise moment, wine, forgiveness, and a different family history. Tyrion, I want to defeat Cersei without murdering half the city. I want Daenerys to be the queen I believed she could be. I want you not to be what every frightened lord now hopes you are. Unfortunately, wanting seems to have become unfashionable among facts. No, Jon looked at Varys. And you? Varys did not soften. I want the best ruler for the realm. I don't want to rule. I know. Then you don't want me. That is where we disagree. Jon stared at him with cold fury. If you use my name behind my back, I'll stop you. Varys bowed his head. I believe you will try. Jon turned to Sansa one last time. The hurt in his eyes made her look, for a heartbeat, very young. You should have trusted me, he said. Sansa answered quietly. I did. That is why I trusted the truth too. Jon left without another word. The door closed behind him. No one spoke for several breaths. At last, Tyrion looked at the map and said, well, that went better than it might have. Sansa sat slowly, as if her knees had remembered exhaustion. Varys looked toward the closed door. No, he said. It went exactly as it had to. Jon went to the Godswood because anger had nowhere else to go. The heart tree stood untouched by the battle, though the snow beneath it had been churned by boots, claws, roots, blood, and death. Its white bark glowed faintly in the gray afternoon. Red leaves trembled in the wind, whispering over the pool where broken ice floated like pieces of a shattered mirror. The face carved into the tree watched with red, weeping eyes. Bran waited there. Of course he did. Jon stopped at the edge of the clearing. Did you know? Bran sat beneath the heart tree, wrapped in furs, hands folded in his lap. I know many things. I'm not in the mood. No. Jon almost turned away. Instead, he walked to the pool and stared down at his reflection. He looked like a stranger. Too thin. Too tired. Hair loose around a face older than it should have been. There was blood beneath one fingernail that he had not managed to wash away. Did you know Sansa would tell them? Yes. Jon laughed bitterly. And you said nothing. You would not have stopped her. You don't know that. Bran's pale eyes rested on him. Jon hated that look. Not because it was cruel. Because it was absent of argument. Bran did not try to win. He merely waited for time to prove him right. She betrayed me, Jon said. She protected you. That's what betrayers always say. Sometimes it is true. Jon turned on him. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be Rhaegar Targaryen's son. I didn't ask to be king in the north. I didn't ask to come back from the dead. I didn't ask for men to look at me as if I can save them from every monster they fear. Bran blinked slowly. No. Then why? The word came out rawer than Jon intended. Why had Ned lied? Why had Lyanna died? Why had Robb fallen? Why had Mance burned? Why had Ygritte died in his arms? Why had his brothers stabbed him? Why had he woken on a table gasping? dragged back into a world that seemed determined to place crowns where wounds should be. Why had the gods let Arya kill death only to leave the living with thrones? Bran looked up at the red leaves. "There is no single why," he said. "Only roots. They grow beneath sight. They meet in darkness. By the time the tree rises, men call it fate." Jon's anger faltered against exhaustion. He rubbed both hands over his face. "I don't want a tree. I want my brother." "No." For the first time, something moved in Bran's expression. Small. Almost hidden. But there. "I remember being him," Bran said. Jon closed his eyes. That hurt more than he expected. "I miss him," Jon said. "So do I." The wind moved through the leaves. Jon sat heavily on a stone near the pool. For a while they remained in silence. Two sons of Winterfell divided by truth, death, and whatever Bran had become. "Was he happy?" Jon asked at last. "Who?" "My father. Eddard Stark." Jon nodded. Bran's gaze shifted toward the tree. "He carried sorrow." "But yes, sometimes. With you. With Robb Dyke. With Sansa when she sang. With Arya when she missed the target and pretended she meant to. With Rickon when he laughed. With Mother in quiet rooms. Happiness does not need a life without lies. Sometimes it survives because of them." "No. God, ma." Jon looked down at his hands. "Did he hate me?" "No." The answer came so quickly that Jon's breath caught. "He loved you from the moment he took you from Lyanna's arms," Bran said. "He was afraid every day after, but he loved you." Jon bowed his head. The anger had not gone. It had only found grief beneath it. "Then why does his love feel like another war?" he whispered. "Because others will make one of it." Jon looked back at Bran. "Can it be stopped?" "Yes." Hope rose before he could prevent it. Then Bran added, "But not by silence." Jon stood, pacing once across the snow. "Everyone keeps saying that. Because it is true. Truth got my father killed. Lies did too." Jon had no answer. Bran watched the pool. "Cersei sits on the Iron Throne because lies lived long enough to become law. Joffrey wore a crown because a secret was protected. Tommen died because truth came too late, and cruelty came too early. The realm has been ruled by shadows people agreed not to name." "No ye." Jon's jaw tightened. "And Daenerys? She believes the throne was stolen from her family." "It was. Yes. She believes taking it back will make the realm whole." "It will not." Jon stared at him. "You saw that? I have seen many kings sit the Iron Throne. None made the realm whole." "Then why does any of this matter?" "Because some break it faster." The words settled coldly in the clearing. Jon thought of Daenerys on the battlements. "It does not matter what you want." He thought of her at the pyres, alone and grieving. He thought of her beyond the wall, risking everything to save men who were not hers. He thought of the Tarleys burning. He thought of slaves lifting their hands to her in Meereen. He thought of Drogon's fire sweeping over Lannister lines. He thought of the way she looked when men cheered for him. "She is not her father," he said. "No." "Then stop looking at me like she is." "I am not." "You all are." Bran's voice remained even. "The danger is not that Daenerys is heiress. The danger is that she is Daenerys, and no one knows yet what she will become when love, grief, destiny, and refusal meet at the same gate." "No." Jon looked toward the heart tree. The red eyes looked back. "I love her," he said, though the words felt broken now. "I know. She saved us. Yes. If I stand against her, I betray her. If you stand beside her no matter what she does, you may betray others." Jon exhaled sharply. "You sound like Sansa." "Sansa sounds like the years that taught her." That silenced him. From beyond the Godswood came the sound of men working in the yard, hammering boards over broken doors, calling orders, coughing in smoke. Life returning not as peace, but labor. Winterfell had survived. Survival, Jon had learned, was rarely gentle. "What should I do?" he asked. Bran's gaze settled on him. "I cannot choose for you. You can see. Seeing is not choosing." Jon almost laughed. "That's convenient." "Yes." Despite himself, Jon smiled bitterly. Bran looked past him then, towards something no living eyes could see. "There will be a council. Sansa's? Perhaps. Daenerys won't accept it." "No." "Then why have it?" "Because men reveal themselves when asked what they will do with power." Jon looked back toward the castle. "And what will I reveal?" Bran's answer came after a long silence. "That you think refusing power means it cannot use you." Jon felt the words like cold water. Before he could answer, footsteps crunched in the snow behind him. Arya entered the clearing. She looked first at Jon, then Bran, then the heart tree, as if deciding which of them was least likely to irritate her. "Am I interrupting something strange?" "Yes," Jon said. "Good." "Good." Bran's mouth almost curved. Arya came to Jon and stood beside him. She did not embrace him. Arya rarely did when anyone could see, though only Bran and a tree were present. Instead, she leaned her shoulder briefly against his arm. "I heard you shouted at Sansa." "I didn't shout." "You have brooding versions of shouting." Jon sighed. "She told Tyrion and Varys." "A idiot." He turned to her. "Me?" "Yes. I told her not to. And you thought that would stop her? She's my sister." "Am I?" "I wouldn't have listened either." "No." Jon stared at her. Arya shrugged. "You're terrible at this." "Being dangerous." "I don't want to be dangerous." "Then stop being a secret with legs." Bran looked down, which for him was almost laughter. Jon shook his head. "I'm glad you're enjoying this." "I'm not." Arya's face grew serious. "Sansa is scared. So are you. So is the Dragon Queen. Scared people with armies make messes. And you?" "I'm always scared." Jon looked at her sharply. Arya met his eyes. "That's why I'm alive." The honesty was so simple that it stole his anger for a moment. "She killed the dead," Jon said quietly. "Daenerys helped us. I won't be part of destroying her." "Then don't destroy her." "It may not be that simple." "It never is. Still your choice." Arya stepped away and looked at the heart tree. "When I killed the Night King, I didn't think about crowns. I didn't think about prophecies. I saw Bran. I saw death. I used the knife." She turned back. "Maybe that's all this is. You keep staring at the whole realm and trying to save everyone before you move. Maybe one day you just have to see the thing in front of you clearly enough to act." Jon absorbed that. The thing in front of him. Not the throne. Not the realm. Not the ghost of Rhaegar or the promise of Lyanna or the crown Robb had never worn long enough. The next choice. The next truth. The next life that might be spared. "I don't know what that is yet," he said. Arya nodded. "Then don't let anyone tell you they do." She looked toward Bran. Bran said nothing. The Godswood darkened slowly around them. By the time Jon left, he felt no lighter. But his anger had changed. It no longer burned outward at Sansa alone. It had become something heavier, less useful, more honest. Fear. Not fear of death. That had left him somewhere between the knives and the table where he woke gasping. This was worse. Fear that love might not be enough. Fear that honor might serve the wrong master. Fear that the truth of his name had already begun a war no army had yet declared. At the edge of the Godswood, he looked back once. Bran sat beneath the heart tree. Arya stood beside him, small and still and deadly. Red leaves fell around them like drops of blood. Jon thought of the dead beyond the walls. Then he thought of King's Landing, a city full of people who had not seen the army of the dead, who would not understand what had been bought for them in northern snow, who waited beneath Cersei's shadow while dragons flew south. The living had survived the long night. Now came the war over what survival meant. The council was called on the third day after the battle, when the smoke from the pyres had thinned enough for men to pretend they could breathe freely again. It was not called by Daenerys. That was the first insult. It was not called by Jon. That was the first lie. The Raven went out under Sansa Stark's seal to every surviving commander within Winterfell's walls, and by noon the Great Hall filled not for feasting, but for judgment disguised as strategy. The long tables had been dragged aside. A larger map had been placed across trestles near the hearth, marked with stones, blades, cups, and pieces carved hastily by hands that had once carved toys for children before war made symbols of everything. Daenerys entered last. Not because she had been late, because queens understood the power of arrival. She wore black and red, the colors stark against the gray northern hall. Her braids had been redone, though fewer than before, and Jon knew each one meant victory, memory, claim. Missandei walked beside her. Grey Worm followed with 4 unsullied guards, which every northern lord noticed, and every northern lord pretended not to. Drogon remained outside the walls, but his absence had weight. No one forgot him. Jon stood near the map with Davos at his right, and Sansa at his left. It looked deliberate. It was not, at least not by him. That made it worse. Tyrion stood between factions like a man hoping the bridge beneath him did not realize it was already burning. Varys remained in shadow near the wall. Arya perched on the arm of a chair, uninterested in ceremony but interested in exits. Bran sat near the hearth, watching flames as though they were memories. Jon Royce represented the Vale. Tormund stood for the free folk because no one could stop him. Gendry Baratheon stood awkwardly among lords who had known his father only as a king or enemy. The remaining northern houses gathered in stiff clusters. Manderley, Glover men returned too late and unwelcome. Hornwood, Serwyn, Tallheart, Flint, and others diminished by death but not erased by it. Daenerys looked at the room and understood immediately. "This is a war council," she said. Sansa inclined her head. "Yes, your grace." "Then why was I informed after it was called?" "Because the armies quartered here need to speak before they are ordered to march." Grey Worm's eyes hardened. Jon closed his own briefly. Daenerys smiled. "Ordered?" Sansa met the smile. Asked if that is the word your grace prefers. Tyrion stepped forward quickly. "We are all exhausted. Perhaps we might begin with numbers rather than phrasing." "A wise suggestion," Davos said, with the relief of a man watching sparks fall near oil. The numbers were grim. Half the northern strength gone, perhaps more once the wounded who would not recover were counted honestly. The Vale bloodied but still the most intact Westerosi force in the castle. The Unsullied diminished, but disciplined. The Dothraki reduced to a fraction of the scream that had charged into darkness. The free folk few enough that Tormund made a joke about each survivor being worth 10 kneelers, and no one laughed loudly because it was too close to morning. The dragons alive, wounded, and priceless. The stores stretched thin, horses dead in alarming numbers, armor damaged, Siege equipment nearly non-existent. Cersei, by contrast, held King's Landing, the Iron Fleet, the Golden Company, Scorpions, Wildfire, if the rumors were true, and the advantage of walls packed with civilians. "We cannot take the capital by starving it," Tyrion said. "The people would suffer first, and Cersei would call it our cruelty." "We cannot rush the walls," Jon Royce added. "Not without engines." "Dragons are engines," Tormund muttered. Daenerys' eyes moved to him. Tormund grinned without apology. Jon placed both hands on the map. "We move south in stages. The wounded who can travel come later. The North and Vale march by the King's Road. Daenerys returns to Dragonstone with her fleet and dragons. We meet near King's Landing when our strength is gathered." "My fleet was damaged," Daenerys said. "Euron Greyjoy controls the sea. Then we scout before sailing, Sansa said. Rhaegal is wounded. He should not fly blind over hostile waters. Daenerys turned her head slowly. Your concern for my dragon is touching. My concern is for the war. Of course. The room chilled. Tyrion cleared his throat. There is another matter. Jon looked at him sharply. Tyrion did not look back. When Cersei falls, what follows? Daenerys' gaze fixed on her hand. I sit the Iron Throne. Yes, Tyrion said carefully. But after that, the realm is broken. The North was declared independent by its lords. The Iron Islands have sought independence more than once. Dorne remembers Targaryen marriage and Targaryen war. The Reach lacks clear leadership. The Stormlands have a new lord who has never seen storms end. The Riverlands are exhausted. The Westerlands will be leaderless if Cersei dies or is captured. Now, Cersei dies or is captured. Even Tyrion could not say if his sister deserved one more than the other. Daenerys stepped closer to the map. I will rebuild what Cersei and the usurpers destroyed. Sansa's voice was quiet. As Queen of 7 Kingdoms? Daenerys looked at her. That is what the Iron Throne means. The North will not bend again easily. Several Northern lords muttered assent. Jon turned to Sansa. This is not the time. It is exactly the time, she said. Daenerys' expression hardened. The North bent the knee when Jon Snow bent it. The North chose Jon as king, Sansa replied. He gave his crown to you for the war against the dead. That war is won. A murmur went through the hall. Jon felt as if the floor had shifted. Daenerys did not raise her voice. She did not need to. Are you saying his oath ended when the Night King died? I am saying oaths made in desperation must be answered with wisdom, not possession. Grey Worm stepped forward. So did several Northern guards. Jon's voice cracked through the hall. No one moves. They stopped. Daenerys looked at him. Do you agree with her? Every eye turned. Jon hated Sansa in that moment. Not truly. Never truly. But fiercely enough that it felt close. I bent the knee, he said. Daenerys watched him. Sansa watched him. The room waited. Jon forced the next words out. I will not break my word. Daenerys' shoulders eased slightly. Then Jon added, but she is right that the North will not be ruled by fear. Neither will the rest of the realm. Daenerys' eyes narrowed. What does that mean? She asked. It means Cersei rules through fear. If we defeat her by becoming worse, we win nothing. No, I have never wanted to be Cersei. No. Then why does everyone here speak as if I am one breath from becoming her? No one answered. That was answer enough. Daenerys looked around the hall, and for a moment Jon saw it through her eyes. Strangers in a cold castle, judging her after she had saved them. Men whose fathers had called her family mad. Lords who would accept dragons only when they burned enemies, not when they crowned queens. Sansa Stark with her northern pride. Tyrion with his doubts. Varys with his secrets. Jon with his impossible claim and wounded honor. When Daenerys spoke again, her voice was low. I crossed the sea to break the wheel. I did not come to beg permission from spokes. Varys stepped from shadow. The trouble, Your Grace, is that wheels crush most thoroughly when convinced they are roads. Tyrion's face went pale. Daenerys turned to Varys. The hall became dangerously still. You have something to say, Lord Varys? Only what many fear to ask. Then ask. Varys bowed his head slightly. Will those who refuse your rule be allowed to live? A sound moved through the room, half shock, half recognition. Daenerys stared at him. Those who take up arms against me. Those who refuse to bend after Cersei falls. Lords, cities, regions. The North, perhaps. Jon looked at Varys with fury. This was not a question. It was a torch thrown into dry straw. Daenerys understood that too. I will offer mercy, she said. And if mercy is refused, her eyes flashed. Then they have chosen. Sansa said nothing. She did not need to. Jon Royce looked down. Gendry shifted uneasily. Davos closed his eyes. Tyrion seemed to shrink inside his own skin. Jon felt the future tighten around his throat. Daenerys looked at them all with open hurt now, and hurt was turning, slow and terrible, into something harder. You sit here in my Al's castle and ask whether I will murder people I came to save, she said. You ask whether I will allow kingdoms to carve away pieces of the realm before I have even reclaimed what was stolen from me. You ask whether my claim is too sharp while another queen sits in King's Landing after blowing up a sept full of innocents, murdering my allies, betraying every oath she ever swore. No one spoke. Daenerys turned to Jon. And you let them. Jon's voice was rough. I'm trying to stop another war. There is already another war. Cersei made it. That war is against her. Is it? The question cut across the hall. Daenerys straightened. I will march south, she said. Those who honor their promises may march with me. Those who wish to debate my crown may do so after the usurper is dead. She turned from the map. Missandei followed. Grey Worm and the Unsullied went with them. At the doors, Daenerys paused and looked back, not at Jon, but at the hall. I have given blood for the North, she said. I will remember who gives theirs for me. Then she was gone. For a long moment, no one breathed loudly. Jon rounded on Sansa, Tyrion, and Varys, anger dark in his face. Are you proud? He demanded. Sansa did not flinch. No, Varys answered softly. But informed. Jon seized the edge of the map with both hands, fighting the urge to overturn it. Davos came to his side. Jon. No. Jon looked around the hall. No more whispers. No more games. We have one enemy in King's Landing. If we turn on each other before we reach her, every person who died here died for nothing. Then lead, Jon Royce said. The words landed with terrible simplicity. Jon looked at him. The Old Vale Lord bowed his head, not deeply, not as to a king, but with enough respect to make the hall notice. Forgive me, but someone must. One by one, eyes lowered. Not all. Not Daenerys' men. Not everyone. But enough. Jon stepped back from the map as if it had burned him. I am not your king, he said. No one answered. That was when he understood how little the words mattered now. Daenerys left Winterfell before the armies were ready. Not that day. Not even the next. She was too skilled a commander to let anger alone dictate movement, and too proud to appear as though she fled a castle that had failed to love her. But from the moment she walked out of the council, the shape of departure hardened around her. Orders went first to the Unsullied. Grey Worm received them in silence and executed them without hesitation. Camps were reorganized. Wounded who could sail were identified. Weapons were counted, repaired, redistributed. The remaining Dothraki were summoned to the fields beyond the walls, where their blood riders argued, mourned, and eventually accepted that the Dragon Queen meant to go south. To them, conquest after death was no madness. It was life proving itself louder. Missandei packed little. Jon saw her near the stables, speaking quietly with Davos, while women loaded supplies onto carts bound for White Harbor. Her face was composed, but her eyes betrayed worry when they moved toward Grey Worm. They had survived masters, chains, wars, seas, and the dead. Now they were being carried toward a city neither trusted for a queen who had begun to feel surrounded by enemies among allies. You could speak to her, Davos told Jon later. I have. Then speak better. Jon gave him a tired look. Davos shrugged. I was a smuggler. We repeat ourselves until someone either buys the onions or hangs us. They stood above the yard, watching men prepare for a march that felt less like unity by the hour. The North would not move as quickly as Daenerys wanted. Sansa had seen to that with arguments no commander could dismiss. Broken wagons, wounded horses, empty grain stores, men still fevered from wounds. The Vale supported delay. The Riverland men supported anything that allowed them another day alive. The free folk had no love for marching south at all. Daenerys did not argue publicly again. That frightened Jon more than if she had shouted. In the days that followed, she became queen in every movement, generous to those who praised her, distant to those who questioned her, gracious before crowds, cold in councils. She named officers among the surviving forces, confirmed Gendry's lordship in writing, promised rewards to men who marched south, and sent ravens to Dragonstone, Dorne, and Yara Greyjoy. She thanked the North for its courage and carefully chosen words that did not mention independence. She visited Rhaegal and Drogon often, speaking to them in Valyrian while northern children watched from behind carts until their mothers pulled them away. Jon tried to find the woman he had loved inside the Queen preparing for war. Sometimes he saw her. He saw her when she stood alone at Jorah's ashes before they were gathered. He saw her when she touched Missandei's hand like a sister. He saw her when she looked at Drogon with a tenderness no throne could counterfeit. He saw her once in the yard when a little girl from House Serwyn, too young to understand politics and too bold to fear dragons properly, offered her a small carved horse as thanks for fighting the dead. Daenerys knelt, accepted it solemnly, and smiled with such open softness that Jon's chest ached. Then the girl's mother called her away with fear in her face, and the softness vanished. That was the wound Westeros kept giving Daenerys. It thanked her and recoiled. Jon understood why. He also understood why she hated it. Understanding did not heal anything. On the morning of her departure, snow fell lightly over Winterfell. The Queen's remaining forces assembled beyond the gate. The Unsullied stood in black ranks, fewer than they had been, and therefore more terrible in their precision. The Dothraki gathered around their horses, braids cut for the dead, eyes restless for southern war. Drogon and Rhaegal waited beyond the road, vast and impatient, their wings shifting gusts of snow into spirals. Carts bearing wounded and supplies creaked toward the column. Jon came to the gate wearing black. Daenerys waited beside a white horse. For a moment, they said nothing. Around them, the castle pretended not to watch. "You will come south by land," she said. "Yes, with the Northern Army, with what remains of it. And Sansa? She stays here." Daenerys' mouth tightened. "Of course." Jon let the comment pass. "The North needs someone to rule while we march. The North seems to have many rulers lately." "Daenerys." She looked at him sharply. He lowered his voice. "Please." The plea reached her. He saw it. For one heartbeat, she was tired enough to let pain show. "I wanted you beside me," she said. "I will be. No, you will follow with men who call you king when they are drunk and deny it when sober. You will come south surrounded by lords who want my crown on your head while you insist your hands are clean because you never reached for it." Jon's face tightened. "My hands have never been clean." "No?" she said softly. "But perhaps cleaner than mine." "That isn't what I meant. It is what they mean." He stepped closer, ignoring the eyes around them. "I don't want to fight you." "Then don't. You know it isn't that simple." Her eyes glistened, but her voice remained steady. "It could have been." He had no answer. She looked toward the battlements. Sansa stood there in dark furs, red hair bright against the gray. Arya stood beside her. Bran waited near them in his chair. The three Stark children watched the Queen leave their home, and Jon felt caught between them and Daenerys like a bridge burning from both ends. Daenerys followed his gaze. "Your family does not love me," she said. "They don't know you. They know enough to fear me. They fear what any ruler can do with dragons." "No," she said. "They fear that you will not stop me if I do it." The words cut deep because he could not dismiss them quickly enough. Daenerys saw that too. She nodded, as if some private question had been answered. "I will take King's Landing," she said. "I will remove Cersei. I will sit the Iron Throne. When you arrive, you must decide whether you stand beside me openly or whether you let others stand behind you in silence. Don't ask me to choose like that. I am not asking." She turned to mount her horse. Jon caught her hand before he could stop himself. The Unsullied nearby stiffened. Daenerys looked down at his fingers around hers. Slowly, he released her. "I loved you," he said. The past tense escaped before he understood he had chosen it. Daenerys heard it. Her face went still. "I know," she replied. Then she mounted. The column moved. The gates of Winterfell opened, and the Dragon Queen rode south beneath falling snow. Missandei rode behind her. Grey Worm marched with the Unsullied. The Dothraki followed, quieter than they had ever been in victory. Drogon lifted into the sky first, black wings beating the air, and Rhaegal followed with a pained cry that echoed across the fields. The people of Winterfell watched them go. Some cheered, many did not. Not from hatred, from uncertainty, which rulers often feared more. Jon remained at the gate until the last cart vanished down the King's Road. Sansa came down from the wall and stood beside him. For a while, they watched the empty road together. "I'm sorry," she said. He did not look at her. "For telling them? For hurting you? That isn't the same." "No." The wind moved between them. Jon's voice was low. "You may have started a war," Sansa answered, just as softly. "I may have warned us one was already coming." He closed his eyes. He wanted to forgive her. He wanted to stay angry. He wanted the world to offer him one clean choice, one enemy with blue eyes and a frozen spear, one battlefield where the dead were dead and the living stood together because they had no time to remember ambition. Instead, he had this: a road south, a queen with dragons, a sister with secrets, a throne he did not want waiting behind a lion who would burn the city before yielding it. That night, a raven left Winterfell. Not under Sansa's seal, not under Jon's. Varys watched it vanish into the dark with a small roll of parchment tied to its leg. The message was short, written in a careful hand and addressed to men who would understand its danger before they finished reading. "Aegon Targaryen lives." He watched the raven disappear into the southern sky. Then he returned to the castle, where the king who refused to be king slept badly beneath the roof of his fathers. The raven flew south faster than armies. It crossed white fields and black rivers, ruined holdfasts and villages where men still locked their doors at sunset, though the dead would never come. It passed above the neck, where mist curled between reeds and old waters remembered older kings. It flew over the Twins, where Frey blood had been washed from stone but not from memory. It followed the long scars of war through the riverlands, where small folk looked at every shadow in the sky and wondered whether it meant wolves, lions, dragons, or hunger. By the time Jon Snow's army left Winterfell, his name had already outrun him. Not everywhere. Not openly. Not yet. Secrets did not become banners in a day. They began as doubts folded into letters, as whispers between maesters, as questions asked after doors closed. A lord in the Vale read the message twice and burned it, then told his heir to prepare men. A lesser house in the Reach received a copy, and wondered whether a son of Rhaegar might be preferable to a daughter of Aerys, or a Lion Queen surrounded by Sellswords. In Dorne, where memories of Elia Martell and her children still bled beneath silken sunlight, the name Aegon Targaryen was met not with simple joy, but with sharp, complicated silence. Rhaegar's son by Lyanna Stark was also a living reminder of the wife he had set aside in song, if not in law. The realm did not rise for Jon. It turned its head. That was enough. In Winterfell, Jon prepared to march beneath a burden no armor could distribute. He did not speak to Varys after the Raven. He did not know about the Raven. Not yet, though some part of him felt the air changing. Varys had become too quiet. Tyrion too watchful. Sansa too careful not to seem careful. Bran had said nothing, which meant either nothing could be done or everything had already begun. Arya stayed near Jon more often than before, not openly guarding him, but appearing where shadows gathered too thickly. The northern host assembled slowly. It was not the host Robb Stark had led south. That army had marched with youth, banners, vengeance, and a king who had not yet learned the price of honor. Jon's army moved like survivors because that was what they were. Men with bandaged ribs, knights with frostbitten fingers, free folk who had no love for southern wars, but loved Jon enough to complain while marching. Vale soldiers cleaner than the Northmen, though not untouched. Riverland remnants who carried old grief beneath patched cloaks. Gendry Baratheon rode among them awkwardly, still more comfortable near smiths and soldiers than lords. A stag newly placed upon his cloak as if someone else's life had been fastened to his shoulders. Sansa stood with Jon in the yard before he left. This farewell was quieter than Daenerys. No dragons, no foreign ranks, no queen's procession, just snow, horses, men pretending not to watch, and the old stones of Winterfell holding yet another goodbye. "You should remain in the center of the column," Sansa said. "I've commanded armies before, and died before." He looked at her. She did not apologize for the cruelty of fact. "The road is long," she continued. "Cersei has gold enough for knives. Daenerys has men loyal enough to mistake fear for duty. Varys has sent letters whether you know it or not. By now, half the realm may have heard some version of your name." Jon's eyes narrowed. "What? Well?" Sansa held his gaze. "I did not send them," she said. "Who did?" She did not answer. Jon's jaw tightened. "Varys? Likely. You knew?" "I suspected, and you didn't tell me. I am telling you now." He laughed bitterly and turned away. "How generous." "Jon. No. I'm tired of being protected by lies. So stop giving people reasons to lie for you." He faced her again, anger flashing. "I never asked anyone to lie for me." "No. You ask everyone to pretend choices disappear because you dislike them." The words struck hard enough to silence him. Sansa stepped closer. "I am not your enemy. You keep saying that like you're trying to convince yourself. I say it because you keep looking for one person to blame, and I am near enough to wound." He looked away. "That was fair. Too fair." Sansa's voice softened. "I know you hate this. You don't know. I know more than you think. I know what it is to have men make a symbol of your body, your name, your claim, your marriage, your blood. I know what it is to stand in a room while others decide what your life means for their ambitions. Do not tell me I do not understand being used." Jon's anger faltered. The wind moved red strands of hair across her cheek. For a moment he saw not the Lady of Winterfell, not the political mind sharpened by suffering, but the girl who had once dreamed of songs and princes and gone south believing beauty meant safety. "I'm sorry," he said. She nodded once, accepting without softening. "I do not want you crowned because it makes a pretty song," she said. "I want you alive. I want the North alive. I want King's Landing spared if it can be. I want Daenerys stopped if grief turns her into what she fears becoming. And if she does not, if she proves wiser than all our fears, then I will gladly be wrong." "Aye? Will you?" The question was harsher than he intended. Sansa's mouth tightened. "For peace, yes." They stood in silence. Then Arya approached with Ghost at her side. The direwolf looked better after rest and food, though scars would remain. He went to Jon, pressing his head against Jon's hand. "You're bringing him?" Arya asked. "Hey, good. People are less stupid around wolves." Sansa almost smiled. Arya handed Jon a small dagger in a plain sheath. He frowned. "I have Longclaw. Longclaw is for enemies you see coming." Jon accepted it. Their eyes met, and with Arya, everything unsaid had edges. "Be careful. Trust slowly. Don't die again. Don't make me avenge you. Come back." He pulled her into an embrace before she could escape. Arya stiffened, then held him tightly for one brief moment. When she stepped back, her face had closed again. "Don't trust Cersei," she said. "I wasn't planning to. Don't trust the Dragon Queen completely." He said nothing. "Don't trust Varys at all. That one I know. And don't trust yourself when you think dying is easier than choosing." Jon looked at her sharply. Arya's eyes were dark and steady. "You do that." He swallowed. Then Bran was there, wheeled forward by Podrick. Jon knelt before him, not as a subject, but as a brother trying to find the boy beneath the sight. "Any last wisdom?" Jon asked. Bran looked at him. The Iron Throne was made by dragonfire from swords of surrendered enemies. Jon sighed. "That's not comforting." "No." "Was it meant to be?" "No." Arya smirked faintly. Bran continued. "Aegon the Conqueror built a throne that cuts those who sit carelessly. Men called that wisdom. But a throne made of surrendered swords still teaches rulers to see the realm as defeated steel." Jon studied him. "What should a king see?" he asked despite himself. Bran's pale eyes did not blink. "People." The answer was so plain that Jon almost missed its weight. Sansa looked at Bran, then at Jon. The yard seemed quieter. Jon stood. Davos called from near the gate. "My lord, the men are ready." "My lord, not your grace." Jon appreciated the mercy. He mounted his horse. Ghost moved beside him. The column waited beyond the broken gate, banners lifting in the cold wind. The direwolf, the falcon, the broken remnants of smaller houses, and somewhere among them, newly stitched, the crowned stag of a blacksmith made lord by a queen who needed the Stormlands. Jon looked back at Winterfell. Sansa stood tall, Arya still as a blade, Bran calm as winter memory. Behind them rose the castle that had made him, lost him, crowned him, and now sent him south under a name he had never learned how to carry. For most of his life, he had thought the wound of being a bastard was not knowing where he belonged. Now he knew the deeper wound, belonging to too many stories at once. He turned his horse south. The army began to move. The King's Road stretched before them, muddy, frozen, and long. Somewhere far ahead, Daenerys Targaryen flew toward Dragonstone with grief in her heart and fire at her command. Somewhere beyond her, Cersei Lannister sat the Iron Throne with wildfire beneath her city and enemies closing from every side. Somewhere between them all, ravens crossed the sky with Jon's true name tied to their legs. He had refused the crown. The realm had heard refusal before. It had mistaken it for virtue, weakness, invitation, destiny. Men would use it according to need. Queens would fear it according to wound. Lords would shape it into promises he had never made. Jon rode on. Behind him, Winterfell grew smaller. Before him, the South waited with all its lions, dragons, lies, and thrones. And for the first time since Sam spoke the name Aegon Targaryen aloud, Jon allowed himself to understand that the truth was no longer chasing him. It had passed him in the night. It would reach King's Landing first.